Hello there, Sir from 17 once again. This is my Bioshock Survivor difficulty Brass Balls walkthrough. We're on Neptune's Bounty. This is part 2 of 3. I love this music at the beginning of these videos. My goodness, that piece is so good. If you're wondering what part of the game it's from, shame on you, but it's at the beginning of the game and it's at the end. You'll notice it first when you enter the elevator and Atlas does his little heartfelt "You've got to find Moira" and all that shit that he pumps you full of at the beginning of the game. It's just one of those really awesome moments of music that I remember. Notice how the enemy just triggered the light. That's in the previous zone. You're going to see that happen a lot. So if sirens annoy you, this can be an annoying part of the game. There's a lot of rocket turrets here too. Then the rockets have preposterous range on them. I asked a bunch of you folks in one of the previous videos what you felt about the grenade that hit me, and there was a lot of people that reacted to what I asked, and it seems like the consensus there was they think it should have hit me, but the damage should have teetered off a little bit over distance. So I think we can agree that that's probably how it should have worked, because I agree with that. I think I should have been hit, but it should have been reduced. The game doesn't care. The game gives you pretty much full damage every time they touch you. If you're touched by a Rosie's grenade, you're dead. It's an instant kill. She's really good with that, and the game doesn't care. And you'll notice the game has an interesting mechanic that's very similar to God Hand, if you've ever played it, where when you're about to die, the game gives you a grace period where there are moves that instantly kill you, and there are moves that put you down to that noise that tells you that you're one hit away from death. Most of the moves in this game, if you're low enough, will give you the grace period of warning you before they kill you. The only things that have killed me are rocket turrets and Big Daddies. Those are the two ones that didn't give me the loud noise, you have no life, press B or die moment. Everything else is really courteous. It's like sending you a pamphlet agreeing to die for them, and you read it, you think it's a bit harsh, but you accept it. Unless you press B. If you press B, you're good. If you press circle, depending on your console. And I think that that's very kind, and it's the reason why this playthrough works. If every hit that would have killed me, if I technically had higher HP and it would have taken off more, just killed me, this would have been much harder to do. But because you get that warning and you get that safety blanket, it makes it way more doable, and I think that's good game design. I think it's really, really good, and I think a lot of games should do that, because there are certain video games you play where you get no consolation prize at all. You get no sliver of life left telling you you really should do something about this. You just die. And I don't mind it so much. I just think that if you had an opportunity to recover, it would be better. Because I'm all about not never making mistakes, as I make a mistake just then and set off an alarm nearly. I'm more about recovering from a mistake. That's what I think is important. Like, have you ever heard those people that talk about on your driving test? If you make a mistake, it's okay, as long as you recover from it properly. Like, if you stall the car, there's a lot of people that have this ingrained fear of stalling the car when they're on a driving test, because you think, well, it's a rookie mistake, isn't it? Everybody stalled a car at the beginning. But at the end, you should be good enough not to do that. But it happens, Maybe you didn't have the clutch high enough or whatever. There's all kinds of situations that can happen with that. But as long as you don't panic and you just do what you're meant to do, bang it in first and carry on, find your biting point and go, then you're okay. If you, shout and scream and jump out of the car, then you're probably in trouble. But it's all about how you react to the problem that's, that either becomes a problem or it becomes a piece of salvation. And that's what I like in games. I like something bad to happen in a game, but I like the player to be able to use skill to get out of it. And I'm not the biggest fan of, ultimate punishment for things. Like a mechanic that I adore, if you've ever played Beautiful Joe, or a game called The Wonderful 101, it's called the Ukemi ability. And this is an ability where, when you get knocked over, if you press a button the moment your character lands on the ground, he'll do a fancy recovery move, and you will be healed the damage that you took. And on The Wonderful 101, it salvages your rank as well, so you can still get a no damage rank even though you get hit. So through skillful application of a mechanic, you can have advantages, and I think that that's wonderful design. This is where we get the camera, by the way, and that's one of my favourite quotes in this game. Good old Robin Atkins Downes doing his best to sound anything like himself and sounding just like himself. He's a great voice actor, though. So take your 3 pictures of the spider splicer. You do not have to let the camera finish developing the photo. You can quickly skip it if you want to just do it for function. Or you can get fancy and look into, you know, how well you scored. The scoring modifier is if you can get them in an action pose, or if you can get them with more people in it and things like that. It's generally the more exciting the picture, the better. The closer you are, the more zoomed in. All that good stuff will generally give you a slight modifier. There are tonics that you can wear in this game that will increase your research aptitude so that you can do them quicker. I recommend wearing both of them. This is something I don't know, actually. I don't know if wearing 2 of the same tonics is stacks. I don't know if it neutralizes the older one or if it gives you the benefit of the newer one. I'm going to go with the placebo illusion that I'm getting both benefits, because I like to think that it does. But I haven't looked into it, and I probably should, actually. But I managed to get through the game just fine, so we were okay. Then we have a leadhead splicer who's staring at this camera, giving it a piece of his mind. There's a nice bonus there for multiple subjects. Get a couple more. I'm waiting for these to dissolve, I don't know why. Am I going for the camera now? Oh, there's the zoom. So I researched everything on this game except for the little sisters, because I completely forgot that they were a thing. So I was a little frustrated about that, but, you know, I think we did okay. So we're in the upper wharf just now. And he's doing his... You hear so much on this game, have you noticed that? That's one of the things I like about it, but it must be said, they've changed the audio balance in this game. There are bits where the audio is wrong and different to the original games, because I can remember certain moments that are burned into my memory that aren't here because of the way the balance works now. And I'm not sure if anybody else has noticed it, but there are moments where the audio is slightly different in a lot of ways with how it's mixed. But you can hear so much on this game. You can hear Big Daddies at a distance and you can pinpoint where they are. You can hear splicers talking to themselves through walls. There's a lot of advantages to having a good headset here or cranking your volume, because you can hear so much, and it does give you an advantage because it helps you understand what's happening, and it's such an important resource that I think a lot of people don't take advantage of. But here's a leadhead splicer looking like the Birdseye, Captain Birdseye dude, forget his name. I love that funny hat that he wears. But I prefer the splicers in this game because they just look like people who are a little dirty and tweaky. They don't look all deformed and monstrous. In Bioshock 2, isn't it a couple of years after everybody's gone too far, so people have full on started turning into big blob monsters, and I just don't think it's as good aesthetically. But there's a hack on the camera. We'll save that for later because we're going to fight another Rosie in that room and it gets real interesting. But there's a rocket turret, and if you can be on one side and have the rocket turret on the other side, you can mess with the Rosie scripting, and that can work really well in your favour. Because if you can get a Big Daddy distracted, you can kill them really quick. But there's Atlas again, fluffing our ear, filling us with his platitudes. Here's a camera. There's going to be a turret here, and I want to know who the hell put it here. Because it's not here now, is it? But when we come back, it's going to be here. And I don't see it, and it cuts a few lumps out of me. But there is she a leadhead? Yeah, she's a leadhead. Start shooting. They are the most dangerous splicer in this game. Especially on Survivor. On hard, you barely notice them. On this, I notice them a lot. And there's a couple of them here, but my robot's going to do some work. Hopefully the alarm's going to send out a couple more. Does it send out one more? Am I going to try and shock my own robot so I can get a friend? You see me taking damage then? That's interesting, isn't it? She must have been hitting me through the space in the pipe. But I'll come along with telekinesis and put that guy down. It's going to blow up, I think. Oh no, it works. Interesting. So there are moments, right? Get this. So just then, what did I do? I hacked a camera, it sent out a friendly bot. After the enemies were done, I electrified the bot and I turned him on my side. I now have a handy helper who loves to block doors and piss me off. There are moments in this game where you do that and your electricity will blow up the sentries. I wonder what the distinction is, because it was the same level of the plasmid, it wasn't damaged, but yet it blew up. I just assumed you couldn't use friendly bots and turn them on your side because the game had put in some kind of anti-programming where you can't exploit it like that. But that's not true, because I just did it then. So that's definitely worth looking into. But once again, guys, if you want infinite robots, that's all you've got to do. Either step into the alert yourself or get a splicer to do it, then electrocute 2 of them and you've got a nice escort everywhere. And the robots are really, really useful. It's just, can you put up with the clipping, which really should have been better. The robots should not clip. They should have no clip on them. Like, I don't... There's some choices in this game that confuse me. Like, have you noticed? Whenever you put a trap bolt down, if you've got a sentry robot, he always finds it, and he instantly kills himself. Happens every time. That's the Spider Splicer talking at us again. She's on the roof. I think that this is a normal one, though. It's not the boss, this one. Because the boss one is legit. We're talking... I've got a little Bioshock story. I don't know if I've told it before. Back in the day, playing good old Bioshock, look at the damage she takes. This one's still pretty strong. So it must be like a boss tier Spider Splicer, because it's taking a pounding. But anyhow, I played Bioshock back in the day. I thought I was the shit when I was playing it. I'm a good gamer, you know how it is sometimes when you're having fun on a game. I did all the beginning, I did all the medical pavilion, and I came to Neptune's bounty, and I didn't save, because I'm a baller, and I never die in these games, because I'm legit. And I was going through it perfectly fine, and then I got to the boss level Spider Splicer. So of course, I throw my body at her, because I've got telekinesis and it's god tier. It doesn't kill her, it does no damage. And then I proceed to have a massive fight, using my shotgun and jumping around in full intensity the entire time, and she kills me. I was so pissed off that day. So angry. And I told all my friends, like, they must have got sick of that fucking story, because I couldn't understand what was different. I was like, it's just a Spider Splicer, and she was a million times harder than any other of the splicers that I'd killed, and she killed me. And I couldn't get my brain around what it was. And obviously you know, because you're intelligent, and at the time I was probably an idiot. But it was because it was a boss tier Spider Splicer. And the ones I'd fought before weren't of the same caliber, so that's why she killed me. But it just feels really fair, doesn't it, when they look just like the other versions of them. They don't look unique at all, they don't look specific, and you get those moments where you do the thing that worked perfectly up to that point, and it doesn't kill him. It happened in this walkthrough when I went to Fort Frolic. I got to Fort Frolic and I was looking for the last dude, and I didn't realise I'd bumped into him. I just thought he was a Nitro Splicer. So I shot him with my crossbow, and it took off no damage. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh, by the way, I just set off that alarm. I can turn it off to my left, but I'm going to electrocute the robots to get them. This is when this game can be a little frustrating. I think the 60-second alarms are too long, because it can take forever. When you get natural camouflage, it's perfectly fine, because all you do is turn invisible and they can't find you. Even though they get literally on top of you, they can't seem to adjust. The normal splicers, when you're invisible, if they get that close, they will react. So you need to be aware of this. There's me getting some quick research on him before he dies. That's something I've not mentioned either, that you might want to be aware of, that you might not have noticed, or I hope you do, because it's one of the first things you learn in the game. When you change weapon, it freezes the game. And I know that's very obvious, but if you didn't realise that, you might have been, trepidatious to do it. The great thing about holding up that weapon wheel and freezing the game is it will freeze for as long as you hold it, so you can give yourself a breather, give yourself time to think, get your head together, decide what you want to do, and then when you come out of it, do it. And I cannot tell you how important that can be on a psychological level to help you get through some tough sequences, because when everybody's around you and you start panicking, if you're that kind of player, and I know I've been that kind of player a long time ago, you sometimes need that moment of, alright, let's just bring this back, one thing at a time, let's don't think about the overall picture, let's think of the first goal, the first hurdle, and let's do it. And that's the best opportunity for it. And I don't know if you can change your ammo when you're in that menu, but if you can't, I wish you could. Because the amount of times you spend reloading on this game and you get punished for it is too damn high. As I throw a lock... Look at that! You see the damage that just did? That's incredible. I threw a lockbox at that dude, and because he's scripted to do this, it didn't kill him, but it took all of his life. That is insane. Oh! Where did he come from? Was he at the vending machine, or did he spawn in? Because somebody left a comment on one of the videos asking me if I was aware of enemies spawning in, like, on top of you. And I've had it happen... It happened then, I think, and it happened when I was in the shotgun... when I got the shotgun on the second video, was it? Where one spawned literally in the gap behind me and the door I had my back against, and the door was locked. So there was no reason it should have happened. This is where collision gets really bad as well, in these tight corridors. But I can't remember it being all that different in the original game. I remember getting ambushed by the splicers in that shotgun section in a very similar fashion. And I remember the moments when you go back through areas that the splicers are just kind of walking around and a part of it. I haven't really come across too much evidence that they are spawning out of thin air really close to me. But it wouldn't surprise me if they were, because that's the kind of thing that games do. You know, it's one of the reasons why I think Bioshock 2 was less scary than Bioshock 1, other than the fact that they went towards Did I say Dead Space 2 was less scary than Bioshock 1? I think I did. You'll have to bear with me, guys. I've slept too long today. Dead Space 1 and 2, sorry. Dead Space 2 is less scary because it became very obvious when the monster closets were, because they always did them behind you. They'd have an enemy in front who'd turn up, and then behind you one of the doors you'd passed had bust through, so it told you that it was an enemy closet because you went to it and there was nothing in there except for a convenient space for enemies to populate. That was the only thing that they were ever doing. In the first game, you didn't realise how it worked because it was new, so you weren't aware of how it was going to play out, and that's why it was scary. Because there was vents everywhere and you knew one of the vents were going to go through, but you weren't entirely sure. And then the second game moved more towards action, so you saw it away. Like, the amount of encounters in the first game is probably covered in the first half of the second game, and that's just how much they upped the action. So it became way more obvious when it was happening and way more apparent. So it was easier to realise that, oh, here's one of those spawns and one of those spawns. And when you show something like that much, you notice it. As we move into the basement here and we do some looting, picking up some frag grenades. Always good. You may be wondering what's the best amount of health and Eve to walk around with. I think it's entirely up to how you can perform. You can put yourself to 9-9 at almost any time by just intelligently using your money. All the vending machines can give you generally refills on Eve and HP, so if you like to feel confident and comfortable in always having max amount of medkits, then do that. I can walk around with a 7 and feel invincible. You know, I get to the point where I've got 4 and I'm still not that eager to get more, but by the time you get to about 4, you've probably naturally, just through progression of the game, got to the next area where you can replenish them. As we move into the club here, and that splicer stands up from the ground. Which, that is a mechanic as well. This was maybe one of the first games I've played where enemies pretended to be dead. And I don't know if it is the first game that did that. Probably isn't, because there's always that one game that does things, but I don't think I'd seen it before. And once you realise that an enemy can pretend to be dead, it doesn't half put some hesitation in your step, because when you see people on the floor, you start shooting corpses, don't you? And it can really pay dividends in this game, especially when you get the crossbow, because it's a free headshot. And if you get the anti-personal rounds, they're a good choice as well against the standard splicers. Unless we're talking leadheads later on in the game. But do you know something I did notice, which I don't remember being so egregious in the first version of this? Big Daddies. The Big Daddies and the way they move around the levels, they seem to be programmed to cock block you. Have you noticed that? Like, if you ever played Left 4 Dead, the witches. If you disturbed a witch, she was a nightmare. You know, she would just run through your entire team if you weren't prepared for it. But a lot of the times, they would put them in the best, most opportune positions where they were a nightmare. And then on the second game, they made them wander around, didn't they? They patrolled. And she would move almost if she knew exactly where you were. And everybody's come across this in games. You know where there's an enemy that doesn't know where you are, but they seem to move perfectly to cock block you, or to come close to you, or to go where you wanted to go. There are so many games that do this with the whole, I can't see you, wink, wink, I'm going to perfectly come near your area nonsense. Well, the Big Daddies do that a lot in this. The amount of times where I've got blocked in a room because a Big Daddy's turned up like a slow bastard and wouldn't move is too damn high. It happens all the time. That is a thuggish splicer, and that just got us static discharge too, which, that's something you need to be aware of as well, guys. Static discharge is actually pretty good. Because when somebody hits you, it will paralyse them, and it enables you to then kill them with a headshot. And this can work on all the standard splicers, outside of perhaps the upgraded leadheads. The problem is, if there's a Big Daddy near you and somebody hits you, you're going to hit him, and he's coming for blood. And it happened to me twice in this run. And there's one example of it that I probably should have shared, but I think I've got rid of it, where I'm moving into the labs to become a Big Daddy, and I move into a room where you climb through a window and there's 2 turrets. You might recognise it. A Big Daddy blocked the door. I'm like, are you serious? So I stand there for about 40 seconds waiting for him to move, and unbeknownst to me, I don't know how he did this, a splicer, a thuggish splicer, managed to run past him even though he was blocking the door. It was like rooftops on gears and somebody didn't want me to get the damn hammer of dawn, so he blocked the bloody door. He was just like that. He ran past the Big Daddy, smacked me in the face before I could react. The electricity from the static discharge hit the Big Daddy, and then the Big Daddy killed me. Oh, this is the turret, by the way, that got me by surprise. Because I'm like, I've been through here. Is it friendly? Nope, it's not friendly. So be very careful, guys. There is a turret there, and he is not friendly. But there was no mount. There was no reason that there should be a turret. Somebody, literally in the space of time it took me to go through that part of the level, came over here like it's TF2 and started whacking away with a wrench, which I find really charming, but also kind of stupid. Oh, notice how somebody's populated in here. He's up there on the stairs. Do you see him? So I'm going to turn the corner and I'm going to hit him with instant death. Bye. Oh, he took it! So even now, the lead heads are pretty bloody strong. Oh no, my bad, he's a Nitro Splicer. So the Nitro Splicers, I think, are traditionally one of the strongest splicers anyway, because you don't see them much. And then later on in the game, you see them quite frequently in, like, Hephaestus. Who isn't Hephaestus the dude who was in the underworld? Who was hammering your weapons out in God of War 3, and then you'd go upstairs and bang his missus? God, I felt sorry for him. I'm almost certain that's who that is. I love that word, though. What a cool word. Say what you want about the Greeks. They got that shit right with their mythology. Which is hilarious, because one day, once upon a time, that shit was called faith and religion, but now we agree that it's all silly and ridiculous and there's too many beards and fancy outfits, yet. You say that about one of the more modern religions and they all get the tits in a bunch. Look at this, by the way. Come on now. There's no world where the enemy's sentries would do what this retard is doing. He's really stupid. And it makes me mad, because we know the pathfinding on the enemy sentry bots is top tier. Why don't we have that same courtesy? Look at him, he's like Mimsy from South Park. It's ridiculous. Just do the job, dude. I shouldn't have to babysit you. And I don't remember the robots being this stupid, but they were. Because it's one of those things. Whenever you play a game, and you don't play it for a while, and you remember loving it, you don't remember the bad. You just remember the good. It's one of the reasons why people look back on old franchises with rose-tinted view and they think they're really good, and then they go back and they're not so great. Like, look at Dead Rising. How many people do you know that talk really highly of Dead Rising? I would go as much as to say quite a lot, because Dead Rising is a game where people seem to be blind to its flaws. And that is a flawed game. But you can see these heartfelt spiels on the internet of people really digging Dead Rising, and I think it's cool that they like it, because it's a cool game. It's a really eclectic, weird game. But it's also kind of broken in a lot of ways. And you would think that it was the best game on the planet with the way some people talk about it, and then you go to it and you're like, what are they on about? Especially if you don't know how to play those games, because those games are very particular. That's one of the reasons why Darkside Phil's playthrough was so hilarious, because you've got somebody who is just the antithesis of the type of person who would really play that game. So when he comes to it and it's not all immediately explained, it just, beautiful things happen. And that's a great example of a game that was made during a time when we really made games. Here comes the Spider Splicer, by the way. So get your research on them. Grenades are pretty good against these ones as well. You can knock them off the roof with grenades. The bullets are pointless because this thing has some serious life. Yeah, serious life. You see that? I love that animation. It's almost like, because I was shooting him, he wasn't able to do the full animation of jumping on the roof. But they always give you the Spider Splicer hearts, it seems, which is a nice heal, so they appreciate that it's a pretty tough enemy, and they give you the tools needed to replenish any of the damage that they did. So I think that's pretty cool. But there's a quick hack. Once again, you'll notice that the arrow is pointing behind me, so if this was a fully optimized walkthrough, I would just be straight up following it, but I'm having a ton of fun going in all these rooms. My only regret playing this again was I didn't listen to any of the audio logs. That just then was not intentional to have that play. I would have really liked to have done it, but it affects gameplay. You might wonder, well, what do you mean? Whenever you put an audio log on, it mutes the surrounding environmental sound and ambience, so it can put you at a bit of a detriment to hearing other threats. And Bioshock is a game where your ears are just as important as your eyes, because the sound design is really well done. And I think that's the reason why I'm noticing that the sound design in this is not as good, because I'm noticing moments where I know in the... Wow. What happened there, do you think? Is it because I didn't have the circle on him? I don't know why he's not proccing, by the way. This guy's just kind of chilling out. But he went down really quick then, which is nice to see. Oh, and this must be programmed, this as well. I think when you go in here and you kill him, he's programmed to enter the room. There's a lot of interesting moments that look like they could be scripted. There's 2 of them as well, so be very careful. They got rid of my dude, how dare you? I've got a body, I don't know why I'm messing around with the guns. Why don't I... Oh, is he tied to the bed? He might be tied to the bed. Kinky bugger. I suppose it's better than the old Caradine way. So there's the body, leadhead splicers. Very dangerous. Oh! I didn't like that one. I don't like you. Are they dead, do you think? I thought there was somebody still alive, but apparently the person playing, he knows better, so he thinks it's clear. Which... It's interesting, you know when you play a game, and you're just in that moment, and you're sharp. I love that feeling of feeling like you're in tune with everything happening. You know when you have a really good moment of just annihilating a sequence in a game, and you feel like it all worked as well as it could have. Is that a bad one? Yeah, that's a splicer. I think he's got a friendly turret, so I can replenish one of the turrets I lost. Did you notice how I had 2 turrets, and now I only have none? One of them tried to follow me, but couldn't. And then there's this one. So where's the other turret? Answers on a postcard, people. Answers on a postcard. Thank you for watching. You take care now.